Let me guess. You were never the favorite. Not the golden child, not the baby either. You were the middle son. The oldest got pressure, the youngest got protection. You got overlooked. And nobody really talks about what that does to a boy. Today, we're breaking down 7 ways being the middle son changes you. Not in theory, in real life. Because growing up in the middle doesn't just shape your childhood, it shapes the man you become. Number 1, you become independent too early. When attention is divided, you learn something subtle. No one is coming. Not because you're unloved, but because you're not urgent. The older sibling demands achievement. The younger demands comfort. You exist somewhere in between. So you adapt. You stop expecting rescue. You fix your own problems. You carry your own emotions. You downplay your own needs. By 12, you already act older. By 18, you rarely ask for help. By 25, you move through life like someone who trusts no safety net. That looks like confidence, but often it's controlled detachment. Somewhere along the way, you made a silent agreement with yourself. I won't need anyone. That agreement protects you, but it can also isolate you. Number 2, you develop hyper-awareness. Growing up between dominance and vulnerability forces you to observe. You study tone shifts. You analyze reactions. You monitor energy. You sense tension before words are spoken. You know when someone feels insecure. You know when someone feels threatened. You know when something is off. That awareness isn't random. It's survival intelligence. When attention feels limited, you learn to scan the environment constantly. Over time, that turns into social strategy. You know how to adjust your behavior depending on the room. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. But if you're not careful, this hyper-awareness turns into hyper-vigilance. You start managing everyone's emotional temperature. You start predicting outcomes before they happen, and your mind rarely turns off. Number 3, you compete without announcing it. You couldn't overpower the older sibling. You couldn't outcharm the younger one. So you found another path. You built skill, quietly. You trained in private. You worked when nobody was watching. You improved without applause. Deep down, you weren't chasing attention. You were chasing proof. Proof that you matter. Proof that your presence isn't accidental. That need for proof can become a powerful driver. It pushes you to refine yourself constantly. But it can also become pressure. Because if success equals worth, then failure feels personal. And middle sons often take failure personally, even when they don't show it. Number 4, you feel injustice deeply. Even subtle favoritism leaves a mark. You notice when one sibling gets more patience, more forgiveness, more praise. You may not confront it, you may not complain, but you internalize it. That's why many middle sons develop a strong sense of fairness. You hate double standards. You dislike manipulation. You resist imbalance instinctively. Because you felt what it's like to be slightly less visible. This sensitivity can make you protective of others who feel overlooked. It can turn you into someone who stands up for fairness. But if unresolved, it can also turn into quiet resentment. Number 5, you build connection differently. If attention felt limited at home, you search for belonging elsewhere. Friends become family. Mentors become stabilizers. Work becomes identity. Purpose becomes obsession. Many middle sons form their deepest bonds outside their family system because chosen loyalty feels stronger than assigned loyalty. When someone chooses you intentionally, it hits differently. You value loyalty. You value respect. You value reciprocity. But sometimes this also means you struggle to feel fully secure in your original family structure, even as an adult. Number 6, you build emotional armor. You learn early not to complain, not to demand, not to burden others. So you hide vulnerability. You downplay hurt. You stay composed even when something stings. You become reliable, solid, calm. But armor protects and isolates at the same time. You may struggle to open up. You may feel uncomfortable being emotionally dependent. You may default to solving instead of sharing. Over time, this can create distance in relationships because people may see your strength but not your softness. And without softness, connection becomes shallow. Number 7. You are underestimated, and that is your advantage. People don't always see the depth. They don't always recognize the preparation. They don't always notice the discipline. But you're building, constantly, quietly. While others seek validation, you refine skill. While others talk about potential, you develop competence. And when you rise, it surprises people because they didn't see the process. They only see the result. Middle sons rarely explode into success. They accumulate into it. But here's the deeper truth. Being the middle son creates tension, and tension creates strength. You were shaped between pressure and neglect, between dominance and need, between silence and survival. That environment forged independence, awareness, resilience, and discipline. But forging also creates internal pressure, and if you're not aware of it, that pressure drives everything. It drives your ambition. It drives your perfectionism. It drives your reluctance to depend on others. The shift happens when awareness enters the picture. When you realize that independence doesn't mean isolation, that strength doesn't require emotional distance, that worth doesn't require constant proof. When that realization happens, everything changes. Hyper-independence becomes leadership. Hyper-awareness becomes emotional intelligence. Quiet competitiveness becomes mastery without insecurity. And emotional armor becomes controlled vulnerability. Being the middle son isn't a disadvantage. It's psychological training. You weren't forgotten. You were forged. Forged in an environment that required adaptation. Forged in silence. Forged between roles. But forging is only the beginning. Refinement is a choice. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself, you start building yourself intentionally. You stop competing with siblings. You stop chasing comparison. You define your own standard. And when that happens, you don't just survive the middle position, you outgrow it. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, you already know why.